Greed, being one of the 7 deadly sins, is a characteristic that has defined humans throughout history, the creation of conflict and deceit. Today, we define greed as a selfish desire for more of something than is needed, much of the time associating greed with money. Greed is mostly linked with self-interest, and it is a common thought to think of greed as a negative aspect of most people's personalities, but it's also seen that greed is part of our own human nature, at least to an extent. Though greed can and has led to many issues and conflicts throughout human history, some positively define greed as the way humans are able to excel in life over others. It's been told that greed has even led for us to have an evolutionary advantage over other species as well. Despite the possibilities of greed helping the human race, ultimately, greed equals power. Whether you get that power or not, something or someone usually gets hurt in the process. Author Phyllis A. Tickle has even gone as far to say that greed is the central source to the other 6 deadly sins, of which include pride, envy, sloth, gluttony, lust, and anger.
In terms of history, greed may possibly be the darkest of the 7 deadly sins. Greed is considered the mother of all sins. For example, dabbling in greed may lead to issues concerning gluttony, sloth, or any of the other sins. During religious history, Paul gives us our first glimpse of greed from a Christian's perspective. Paul originally states that the love of money is the root of all evil. In fact, the path to heaven was thought to be obtained by relieving themselves of their possessions and dividing the money upon the needy. As time passed, greed was considered to be a taboo topic. However, greed did not come with definite constraints. Therefore, it was difficult to identify. Paul described the fight against greed as a type of warfare, and eventually most Christians began to engage in combat. Then, in 1517, the Reformation, led by Martin Luther, began to broaden the understanding of greed. The concept was no longer considered a sin. In contrast, people began to realize the driving forces behind it. In fact, the secularization of evil, which looks for a physical root behind greed, began to emerge. As history unravels, Western civilization was adamant on finding a root to the problem. However, the final turning point occurred when Thomas Hobbes created his own group of sins with corresponding definitions. This list was seen as a social contract or obligation that was interpreted as dangerous and binding. Currently, we tend to see greed as a typically monetary issue. However, greed covers a wide range of topics. Although we don't often look for the sins in our daily lives, they are still as present as history indicates.
In regards to the art that can relate to greed, in the book Greed from our 7 Deadly Sins collection, there's a picture of Michael Douglas from the movie Wall Street. On Wall Street, in the 1980s, Charlie Sheen is a stockbroker full of ambition, doing whatever he can to make his way to the top. Admiring the power of successful businessman Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen entices Michael Douglas into mentoring him by providing insider training. As Charlie Sheen becomes obsessed with greed and underhanded schemes, his decisions eventually threaten the livelihood of his father, Martin Sheen. Faced with this dilemma, Fox questions his loyalties, a perfect description of greed and the negative impacts that come along with it.
In Peter van der Hayden's painting, Big Fish Eat Little Fish, it illustrates a proverb in which explains that the powerful instinctively eat the smaller, less powerful prey. In the painting, a man wields a knife that cuts open the belly of the large fish, showing even more little fish that can be seen tumbling out of its mouth. The father figure appears to be gesturing to the son to come see for himself the truth in the proverb. The son shows his understanding by pointing to a nearby man who has pulled a small fish from another larger fish's mouth, instead of portraying greed by simply keeping the large fish.
Artist Angela Kaufman's piece, Cornelia, Mother of the Gracchi, Pointing to Her Children as Treasures, is a painting that depicts greed as materialistic and vain. In the painting, a woman in red is presenting her many treasures to another woman wearing white, Cornelia. Cornelia points to her children as in the title, saying that she doesn't need these items because her children are her treasures. Kaufman's painting represents the wealth-induced greed that is inside so many humans and its control over how they view the world. Cornelia's white dress shows purity, someone who has wisdom and doesn't let her greedy human nature come forth. The woman in red shows greed in the measurement of self-worth through possessions rather than herself and the people she has in her life. The painting as a whole shows greed as an impurity and does not allow you to have a truly fulfilled life.
Greed in modern-day society is often present in the human want for excess. As humans, we always feel as though we could have more of something, whether it be money, power, time, or knowledge. The repercussions of our greedy actions include consequences with those we love, the law, and our own conscience. As I mentioned, humans today are greedy for money and materialism. A clear depiction of this trait is Wall Street trading, and is furthermore illustrated by the movie The Wolf of Wall Street. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, Jordan Belfort is a stockbroker on Wall Street that serves time in prison for defrauding investors in a major security scam that cost them millions. The movie serves as a basis for understanding the lengths at which greedy businessmen will go to make more money than they actually earned. Since money is probably the most easily notable subcategory of greed, it is also important to touch on gambling and deception of large name brand companies and casinos. Humans gamble as a pastime, risking their hard-earned money in hopes to win money out of pure luck or chance, and gambling can actually become an addiction that can lead to poverty and marital problems. In addition, humans are greedy for more power. As a society, we constantly leave our jobs in order to apply for management positions in which we may have a lesser workload, a greater authority, and, of course, more money. While the benefits may seem sweet, many Americans may find themselves underqualified because greed clouds morality and causes roughly 40% of Americans to lie on their resume. Another subset of greed is time. This is mostly self-explanatory, as all of us have cut someone off in order to get one car ahead, ran a red light because we were running late, or tapped our foot in the grocery store line because the woman in front of us was pulling wads of coupons out of her purse. While many modern subsets exist for the sin greed, the last I have chosen is adoration. In a time of social media frenzy, we all desire for more gossip or the jealousy of others as they click through mass amounts of pictures we have posted of ourselves. In my opinion, greed is one of the most dangerous sins because its after effects are not only damaging to human morality, but also often involve breaking the law.
Greed in modern-day society has become somewhat of an epidemic. Greed, one of my favorite of the 7 deadly sins, is especially prevalent in nature, more specifically with the way humans treat planet Earth. Throughout my research, one of the main problems noted in almost every article I read was a serious problem of greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases trap heat and make the planet warmer. Human activities are responsible for almost all of the increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere over the last 150 years. The largest source of greenhouse gas emissions from human activities in the United States is the burning of fossil fuels for electricity, heat, and transportation. However, there are many sources of greenhouse gases that can also be held responsible. For example, electricity, transportation, industry, agriculture, and land use can all be held responsible as well. The problem with greed in modern-day society, particularly nature, is that people will stop for nothing. No one is going to stop driving their cars, throwing away trash, ending up in landfills, or breeding livestock which give off methane gas in their normal digestive processes. Electricity and transportation are the leading causes of greenhouse gases, but why would anyone ever stop driving their car or using appliances in the morning before work? Americans have become so used to this way of life that for many people, life without all the things that are killing our planet seems unimaginable. Greed is a major contributor to the reason that our forests are shrinking. Deforestation is a leading cause of climate change because with fewer trees on our planet, there is a greater abundance of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. It is important to defend our forests because 70% of Earth's land and animals live in forests, and many cannot survive when deforestation destroys their homes. Greed not only destroys people, but destroys the world around us.